about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening. Welcome to our latest A-Level Law Revision Blast, our live stream sessions to help students recap and revise some core concepts, core topics. And we've got a nice juicy topic tonight, gross negligent manslaughter. That's as much as I know. Gemma in the middle, Rabina on the right. So I'm hoping that you know more than me about this topic and guide us through the session. I know you do, actually.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's that, Rabina? Not hard, did you say?
Yeah.
So welcome to our students joining us live. So, I mean, last week we had some fantastic responses. In fact, the last few weeks, the live student audience have really impressed our presenter team with their knowledge, their in-depth knowledge of the law and the cases and the application. So I'm sure tonight it's going to be just the same. If you watch on replay, we can't use the live chat with you, but please do take a bit more time, maybe pause the video, give yourself a bit more time to work through the activities. What do you think about half an hour, Gemma, Rabina, tonight, half an hour or so
Yeah.
on this topic? So, right, well, let's get going, shall we?
Yes, let's kick it off. Okay.
Okay.
So, as Jim said, we're talking about gross negligence manslaughter, obviously part of involuntary manslaughter, and you might have already studied this alongside unlawful acts manslaughter. So the first case that we're going to be looking at, a gross negligence manslaughter case, you've got to work out the key case from this big reveal as I reveal different aspects of the case. So let's reveal number one. Okay, so obviously this case concerned gross negligence manslaughter. Try to put in the comments any big cases that you can remember in terms of gross negligence manslaughter, any of the key cases that you've studied. Okay, number two. This case was heard in 1994, so not as old as some of the cases that we have in law, but for you lot, probably not that recent. I do remember 1994. Okay, so number 3. This case, the victim died during an eye operation. Okay, so let's see if anybody can put in any comments, the idea of what this case is, the name of this case. I'm sure have all have studied this. Number 4, let's reveal number 4, give you a little bit more of an idea. In this case, it concerns an anaesthetist who really failed to notice the oxygen tube had become disconnected. And when you think about it, that's pretty bad. They've got one job to do in that operating theatre to make sure that the person on the table has a consistent supply of oxygen, and they don't do it. So it really defines the gross negligence manslaughter arena. We're getting some answers in, which is fantastic. Let's see number 5, help the rest of us out. And as I said, it set the test for gross negligence manslaughter. So you've got people there already typing it in. I can see it is Ademaco. Yes, so that set the key test for gross negligence manslaughter. I'm sure a lot of you started off studying gross negligence manslaughter by looking at that rather interesting case, and that set the standard for it. Okay, so gentle ease you in with that, and we'll go on to the next activity. So can we have a think, just to start our activity, what's the difference between murder and involuntary manslaughter? What are some of the differences between murder and involuntary manslaughter? Type them in the chat box. You could be thinking about a variety of different areas here. You might want to think about sentencing. You might want to think about what are the difference of offences. Oh, we've got Jim's trying to put in a question there asking, is it to do with the mens rea? Yeah, I'm sure he's picked that up. Is there a different mens rea? What's the difference between murder and involuntary manslaughter? Of course, we know our definition of murder from Lord Coke, the unlawful killing of a reasonable creature in being under the king's peace with malice aforethought express or implied. And then we have voluntary and involuntary manslaughter, okay, which is showing a different offence, so it's differently labelled with a different maximum term of imprisonment. Obviously, for murder, it's a mandatory life sentence, where for manslaughter, it's not. And involuntary manslaughter, it's we're looking at the difference between the intentions, really, and looking at the difference between the offences where there was that malice aforethought expressed or implied in murder, and involuntary manslaughter. Unfortunately, something occurred where the person died. There wasn't the intent to do it, but they died as a result of it. Okay, so let's have a look at the next activity. Yeah, you can see there there's no intention there, and I mentioned we've got 2 types of manslaughter which we look at. There's I don't know whether you call it constructive manslaughter or unlawful act manslaughter. I know in my teaching I call it unlawful act manslaughter, and we've got a discretion with life sentence for manslaughter as opposed to maximum for a mandatory life sentence, for murder. As we mentioned, the leading case for gross negligence manslaughter is Ademaco. It's always really important to pick up these exam gold tips as you go through, and making sure that you are answering the question in all its respects and all its elements. Remember, the key thing that I think a lot of students forget is that gross negligence manslaughter can be committed by an act or an omission. Unlike unlawful act manslaughter, there has to be that positive act in unlawful act manslaughter, which of course you'll know there's different aspects of the test as well, dangerousness in church, etc. Okay. Now, can you think of any situations where gross negligence manslaughter might be committed through an omission, through somebody failing to act? We think of any situations. They might have studied some, you might know some cases around them, or you might just be able to think of some now. So where by a failure to act, somebody has been grossly negligent and they've caused death. Well, there's a variety of different scenarios where this could arise. There could be where you failure to care for somebody, where you're failing to look after somebody in your care as a parent or guardian, or in a position of responsibility as well. So there can be a number of situations. Okay, so just bear that in mind as you're revising that unlawful act manslaughter has to be conducted by an act, but gross negligence manslaughter can be through an act or an omission. Gross negligence manslaughter, we've got the test there setting out. So there's got to be a duty of care. We're very familiar with duty of care from your studies surrounding duty of care for your tort studies. This then has to be breached, okay? And then this breach causes the death. It's nothing to do with the beach. The breach must cause the death. So we've got that causation element there. And it must be so gross that it amounts to a crime. So it's got to be so bad in all the circumstances. If we look at Ademaker, you can see that. Not ensuring that somebody has the breathing equipment necessary so that they have an oxygen supply when they're under anaesthetic in an operation is really bad, is so gross. And there has to be a serious and obvious risk of death, which is realised. So the 5 elements of the test there, just to maybe refresh your mind as we go through. Right, so this is a confusing pairs activity. You have to look and decide, do these cases match up correctly or not? Okay, so is Donoghue and Stevenson about a clear and obvious risk of death? And is the Misra case about outlining the neighbour principle? Do they match up correctly or not? Type it in the chat box. We're already getting some answers in. And don't be shy, guys. More answers if you want to. As we can see there, people have already put the correct answer in. Of course, they don't match up. Donoghue and Stevenson, of course, is outlines the neighbour principle, and Misra is talking about a clear and obvious risk of death. Okay. Now, looking at causation. Right, so does White contain the test for legal causation, and does Smith contain the test for factual causation? You've got to be familiar with your legal causation and factual causation's test. Factual causation is, of course, but for, and legal causation is, of course, more than a minimal cause of the death. So here, have we got it correct? Do the key cases and definitions match up? Oh, people are saying I've got to swap them again, that they're not correct. Shall we see? Do I need to swap them again? Yes, I do. Of course, I need to swap them again. Okay, so Smith is about a more than a minimal cause of death, and White is your but for case. But for the actions of the defendant, the victim would not have died. Okay. And then we've got these cases, Stone and Dobinson. So is Stone and Dobinson about a failure to provide oxygen to illegal immigrants in the back of a van, and this was deemed to be gross negligence? And is Wacker about a failure to care for a relative having taken responsibility for them, which was gross negligence. That could be your example there of one of those scenarios where there was a failure to act, where there's a failure to do something, so it's by an omission. I'm not even asking the question yet, but we've already got loads of people saying again, I need to swap them again, don't I? Okay, I keep getting these things wrong. Of course I've got to swap them again. Yes, WACA's a very interesting case, looking at those illegal immigrants in the back of the van, and you had to provide them with some oxygen. It was deemed to be gross negligence when that was not, when that didn't occur. Okay, right, let's see if I get this one right. Not doing too great, are we here? Right, Singh. Singh was about a breach of a duty of care to maintain properties when a gas fire caused death, so about it being gross negligence. And Litchfield was about a breach of duty of care to a ship's crew when it exploded because of contaminated fuel. Is that right, or do I need to swap them again? You've been on fire so far, guys, so let's see if you can get this one. Slightly less familiar cases, maybe. We do all remember the Stone and Dobbin. Someone have learnt it in other areas, and Adam Maker is one of the leading cases. Finally, it's correct. There's no need to swap them here. You've got that right. There's no fooling you, is there? Brilliant, guys. Yeah, a little tick there. That was correct. Okay, it took, I think, till the final one to get it correct. Okay, and now I think we're moving on to true or false, and I'll hand over to Rabina.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Gemma. Fantastic retrieval activities there on some really key cases. So nice and easy now for you guys. I just want you to put either T or F in the chat box for some true and false questions. So causation does not have to be proven for gross negligence manslaughter. So is that true or is that false? So have a think about the 5-part test that Gemma's just gone through. Do we need to establish causation? So true if we don't need it, false if we do need it. Let's have a look. Give you 30 seconds or so to get that in the chat box. Causation does not have to be proven in gross negligence manslaughter. Adam's in there already. Let's have a look then. Right then, please, Jim. Yes, you corrected yourself, didn't you? Yes. So causation does, doesn't it? So we asked, it doesn't have to be proven. Yes, it does. We still need factual and legal causation. That breach of duty has got to cause that victim's death. So that really key element of causation you'll have studied at the very start of the course, depending on obviously which way your course is sequenced. We do really need to ensure that we prove that for gross negligence manslaughter. Well done. Yep, Caden, well done. Fantastic. Second one then, if the defendant is a trainee or a learner, will this be taken into account? So you might be aware of the rules for civil negligence, but gross negligence manslaughter is a little bit different. So if they're a trainee or a learner, is this taken into account? True if you think it is, false if you think it isn't. Give you a minute. To a trainee, learner, so like a trainee doctor. So Peter's coming first. Oh, Adam, excellent. We've got the civil bit as well there. Yeah, let's have a look then. Right, yes. So if the defendant is a trainee or a learner, this will be taken into consideration. So it's the reasonable, competent person, isn't it? The average person, what they would do. Adam's correct there as well, that we have to compare that to civil law as well, don't we, in that sort of situation there. One of the real harsh points of civil is that the learners are judged against anybody that's qualified in that situation. Excellent. Next one, please. Right, so the duty of care test comes from negligence. So if you have already learned about tort law and negligence, you'll be able to get this one a little bit quicker. So the way we prove duty of care, has that come from the civil concept of negligence, originating in Donoghue and Stevenson, the famous snail and ginger beer? Caden's in there. Let's have a look then, please. Talia's got an answer. Yes, correct, it is, isn't it? So the ordinary rules of negligence apply that's come from Donoghue, and obviously we've extended that recently with the Robinson case for negligence. But yes, so the same rules apply for criminal, for gross negligence manslaughter there. We've got different ways that we can owe people a duty of care. So yes, well done. Breach of duty cannot occur by an omission. So if you remember Gemma's original explanation to do with gross negligence manslaughter, we can do this via omission. So breach of duty can't occur by omission. Is that true or is that false? So omission's failing to act. I think so it can't occur by omission. True or false? Right then, let's have a look. Some good answers there, people. Well done. We're spotting these really well. So yes, that is false, isn't it? It can be via omission. A lot of gross negligence manslaughter cases are because the person has failed to act in that situation. Quite a lot of your medical cases are through a positive act. They have physically done something to breach their duty, but equally quite a lot of them, especially like Adamarco, are from failing in that situation. So it definitely can occur via omission. So well done those guys for getting that in there in time. So there must be a clear and obvious risk of death. Have a look at the wording of that, see if we can spot it. So true or false? So clear and obvious risk of death, is that the test? Do you want to bob the answer on for me, Jim? Yes, there has, hasn't there? It's got to be obvious. It's got to be serious as well, but there's got to be a clear risk of death there, because you've got to remember in that 5-part test, not at any point do we ask you what did you foresee as a defendant. So Adamarco never got asked did he think he'd breached his duty because it's objective, or what did he foresee could happen. So what we do instead is we have this fifth element that, okay, then we are going to charge them for manslaughter here, so the chance of somebody dying has got to be quite a high chance. So therefore, that's why we always use it. It's got to be a clear risk of death. It's got to be serious, and it's got to be obvious to the normal person. And that then justifies the fact that you are getting discretionary life in that situation. Yes, we've got Misra in there, haven't we? Definitely, it came from that case with the knee operation. Well done. Right, so a little bit of a different activity now then. So it's asking you, out of your box of 9, which one of them relate to gross negligence manslaughter. So there could be 1, there could be 2, there could be 5. Have a look at the 9 there. Which ones do you think relate to gross negligence manslaughter? And again, you might just want to bob your answers into the chat. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to work them out. So out of the 9 that are on there, which ones link to gross negligence manslaughter? Some of them are other areas. So dangerous, risk of death, malice aforethought, unlawful act, GN, abnormality of mental functioning, duty breach causation. I think your mic's on, Gemma. Right then, let's have a look, see if we've got it right. Right, yes, so you can see here then, so well done for those that have managed to get those in there. So dangerous and unlawful act were definitely not for this one, were they? They're for your constructive manslaughter or unlawful act manslaughter. Malice aforethought we've already discussed in relation to murder. Abnormality of mental functioning, anybody remember where that comes from? The defendant's got to have an abnormality of mental functioning. What area of fatal offences would we talk about that then? AMF. So abnormal, the normal person would deem their functioning as abnormal. It's a bit of an extra. Anyone remember that case? Case or the area of law? Yes, Malik, straight in there. Diminished responsibility, isn't it? Yeah. So coming from that case of Burns, sexual psychopath, we've got that area there, didn't we, from abnormality? Yes, yeah, excellent. A few of you in there now. Yes. Always one students struggle with. They always compare it with insanity, don't they? They are very, very similar. So I can understand that link there. But yes, so you want in yellow are correct out there. We've got to have the risk of death, got to have the gross negligence, the breach, the duty in the first place, and that element of causation. So yes, we do need all 5 elements there. Well done. Right, so last couple of activities now then. So we're going to look at a 30-second challenge. So we'll just see what our challenge is. So how many gross negligence cases can you think of? So you can bob your case names into the chat. Even better if you can link it to an area. So have you learnt it in duty? Have you learnt it in breach, causation, GN, or a risk of death there? So we've got the big one, haven't we? We started with that from the very, very start with the big reveal. We've got Adamarco, but can we remember any other cases for gross negligence manslaughter? So the 30-second timer starts now. Nearly halfway through. Got a couple coming in. Seem to have lost music on this one. I feel like I need to do some tunes. Yes, I haven't seen low in a long time. Like that one. So I'll give you just another sort of 10-20 seconds for the chat to come through. So we've got white so far, we've got low with the neglect. Any other cases you've done? Bateman. Singh, yes. Obviously Adamarco. Somebody mentioned Misra further up as well, didn't they? Excellent. Yes, fantastic, guys. Quite a lot of cases coming in here. There was a Perry Whacker, probably one of my favourite ones. Malik, I was just about to say, Kudus is a quite a recent case, but a really good one to show that risk of death as well, because even though the actual owner of the restaurant managed to get away with it on appeal, the guy that made the food still got the GN charge there. So, yes, excellent. Well done. Yes. Perfect. Right then, we'll move on then, please, Jim. Wow. Can't believe that's us finished already.
It is. Yeah, that was it. That was it. Yeah, well, bang on time.
Fantastic, I know.
Perfect timing. I was just impressed by that long list of cases in the live chat there. In fact, they're still coming in. Fantastic.
Yeah,
definitely.
That was brilliant at the end, guys. Yeah, lots of
Especially,
different cases in there.
Yeah, especially that new one. I've only put it in my booklets this year, Kudus. So fabulous.
Kudus. What's the Kudus case there, Robina?
It's a takeaway.
I'm not putting you on the spot at all, but what's the Kudus case?
It's a big takeaway case, Royal Spice, and they it was a Just Eat order that they'd not seen the allergies, and she'd taken.
Okay.
She'd obviously had the food and she died. So one of the first of many that's been in the news quite obviously the past couple of years. They actually tried to get the owner and the guy that made the food. Now the owner managed to get away with it on appeal because he didn't obviously have the awareness for the GN charge, but we managed to get him. The guy that made it in the end, Mr. Kudus. So it's a good one to use if you didn't want to use Misra just to show serious and obvious risk of death, really. So it's a good one.
Who'd be an optician or a takeaway person?
The spreading of the cases as well was really good there. So we've got some on the duty, some on the breach, the causation, and the risk of death. So that's really good because it shows your awareness of all the 5 elements of the offence as well. So well done, guys.
Fabulous.
Superb stuff. Many thanks, as always, to Gemma and Robina, our 2 presenters this week. I know we have a fantastic team of people rotating around doing these sessions, but after a really long, busy teaching day. So we appreciate that. And I know you're knee-deep in marking and other stuff as well. So we always appreciate you taking some time to put the great session together, but also to help guide us through it. Because as I proved early on, I knew next to nothing about this topic. Albeit, I reckon if I keep watching them all, eventually I will qualify as a lawyer. I don't know what you think, Rabina, whether that's true or not.
You'll know that 5-part test within the 20 minutes, Jim.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do, once I've had some pizza, Leeds United playing tonight on the telly, second best team in Yorkshire after Harrogate Town. So I'll go grab a takeaway. I'll make sure that it's from the right place. And,
Make sure they've read your allergies.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go straight to let's get my finger right, tutor2.net/live, because you'll find Gemma and Rabina and Sarah and Dan and the team, Liz, have put a fantastic series of these sessions together throughout 2021, sorry. So I think there's about 15 or 20 sessions we've done now, covering a variety of stuff. So if you've got mocks or assessments coming up, or if you just want to sort of test yourself on these key topics, take a trip over there, have a look. You won't regret it, would be my advice.
Yeah, we've pretty much covered every topic, haven't we, as well, which is quite good. We've got a few left, but
no contract yet.
There's more to come.
No, yeah,
there's more to come. Yeah, and it's across the variety of different subjects. So your substantive and your non-substantive. You've got some ELS topics, haven't you? I think there's one on delegated legislation, and on criminal and on tort law as well. Yeah. And maybe in the future, who knows? There might be some on contract, Jim. You never know.
I believe they are coming up. Simon, that's very, very kind of you to say that. And we love doing these sessions. So we appreciate you joining us live.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's time to go, because the end of another fantastic session. So as always, if you get a chance, just click that thumbs up button, that like button on YouTube. If you're watching live or on replay, it makes the world to us. Have you noticed they've taken the thumbs down button off the count these days on videos, so we'll never know whether people didn't like it, but we will know if you did find it useful. So always appreciate that, and also spread the word. So we're back again next week, and then of course after Christmas we'll be back with some more sessions and some other exciting stuff coming up to announce, which we're announcing very soon. So I think we're done. Enough of me. We're done. We'll see you this time.
See you later.
See you this time next week.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
See you.